I have been sitting on this bench for 42 years now, and in that time I have seen just about everything the human heart is capable of producing, both its darkest corners and its most luminous moments. I have seen people at their worst and at their best, and I have learned that the distance between those two places is sometimes smaller than we would like to believe. But every now and then, a case comes through my courtroom that reminds me why I took this oath in the first place, why I still put on these robes every morning even though my knees hurt when I climb the steps and my eyes get tired reading case files by the end of the day. This particular case, the one I am about to tell you about, it broke something inside me, but it also restored something too. Even now, months later, I still get a tightness in my chest when I think about it. I still see her face, tired and dignified, standing in that courtroom. And I still see his face too, smug and empty, thinking he was untouchable. I thought I had seen every possible combination of arrogance and entitlement that could walk through those courthouse doors. But then Marcus Whitmore III came strolling in with his $15,000 suit and his $60,000 watch, and he taught me that there are always new depths to discover. You enjoying this story so far? Then do me a huge favor right now and hit that subscribe button, because what happens next is going to restore your faith in the justice system, and I promise you, you are not going to believe where this goes. I need you to hear this whole thing because it matters. It matters more than most things I could tell you about. Let me tell you exactly what happened that day, but first, let me tell you about my morning, because context matters in life just like it matters in law. I wake up every morning at 5:30. I have done this for so long now that my body does not even need an alarm anymore. My wife Joyce, who has put up with me for 48 years now, God bless her patience, she stirs when I get up, but she does not fully wake. I kiss her forehead the same way I have done for nearly 5 decades, and I make my way downstairs to the kitchen where I make my coffee strong and black. My father, who came to this country from Italy with $8 in his pocket and worked construction until his hands were gnarled like tree roots, he taught me something important while I was growing up. He said, Francesco, when you have power over another person, that is when your character gets tested, not when you are weak. Anyone can be humble when they have no choice. But when you have the power to crush someone and you choose mercy instead, that is when you become a man worth respecting. I think about his words almost every day. They guide me more than any law book ever could. That particular Tuesday morning in late October, the air had that crisp quality that reminds you winter is coming whether you are ready or not. The leaves were turning those brilliant reds and oranges that make Providence look like a painting for about 2 weeks every year. I drove to the courthouse in my old Honda Accord, the same car I've been driving for 11 years now because it still runs fine, and I see no point in replacing something that works. I could afford something fancier, sure, but that is not who I am. That is not what my father taught me. I arrived at the courthouse at 8:15 in the morning, just like I do every single day, and I parked in the same spot I have been parking in for years. The courthouse itself is not a grand building. It is not like those impressive marble structures you see in the movies with soaring ceilings and dramatic columns. It is a modest building, functional, with worn wooden floors that creak in certain spots and fluorescent lights that hum a little too loudly. But it is my courthouse, and I love it because of what happens inside it, not because of how it looks. The courtroom where I preside is on the second floor. It has the American flag on one side and the Rhode Island state flag on the other. The wooden benches in the gallery are old and have been sat on by thousands of people over the decades. The witness stand is to my right, and the clerk's desk is just below my bench. The whole room smells faintly of old wood and floor polish and the accumulated weight of human stories. Christina has been my clerk for 23 years. She knows my moods better than I know them myself sometimes. She can tell when I am going to be extra compassionate with someone and when I am going to come down hard. She has seen me cry in chambers after particularly heartbreaking cases, and she has seen me furious when someone tries to make a mockery of this courtroom. That Tuesday morning, she handed me the stack of case files for the day when I walked in. There were maybe 14 or 15 cases scheduled, a pretty typical Tuesday docket. Traffic violations mostly, a few small civil matters, nothing that looked particularly unusual at first glance. "Morning, Judge," Christina said, adjusting her reading glasses on the chain around her neck. She was wearing a cardigan that looked hand-knitted, probably by one of her 7 grandchildren, who she talks about constantly. "Morning, Christina. How is your grandson doing with that college application?" "He got into Providence College early decision," she said, and her whole face lit up like a Christmas tree. "That is wonderful news. You must be so proud." "I am. His mother is already crying about the tuition, but we will figure it out." She paused and tapped one of the files in my stack. "Judge, there is one case today that is a little unusual. Parking violation that escalated. The defendant is a Whitmore." I looked up at her. The Whitmore name carries weight in Rhode Island. Senator Richard Whitmore has been in state politics for 30 years, and his family has money and connections that go back generations. What kind of parking violation? Emergency zone at Rhode Island Hospital. Blocked the ambulance bay for over 4 hours during evening rush. There was apparently an incident involving a delayed response to a cardiac emergency because of it. I felt something stir in my chest. An ambulance bay, 4 hours. Who is the complainant? EMT who tried to get him to move. Rita Alvarez. She filed the report and she is planning to show up today. I made a mental note of that. People do not usually show up for parking violations. If she was coming, it meant something. The morning started with the usual array of cases. A young man who got caught going 52 in a 35 zone because he was late for work. I could see he was genuinely remorseful and genuinely struggling, working 2 jobs to support his daughter after his girlfriend left. I suspended half the fine and gave him a payment plan. A woman who let her car registration lapse because she forgot in the chaos of caring for her elderly mother with dementia. I waived the fine entirely and told her to get it renewed within 2 weeks. An older gentleman who ran a red light and looked terrified standing before me because he had never been in trouble before in his entire 73 years. I explained the danger of what he did, made sure he understood, and reduced his fine by half because I could see his remorse was genuine. These are the moments I live for. The moments where I can see the person behind the violation and respond with understanding instead of just punishment. At about 10:30, I looked up from the bench during a brief recess, and I noticed a young man sitting in the gallery waiting area. He stood out immediately, and not in a good way. He was wearing a navy blue suit that fit him so perfectly it had to be custom tailored. Later I would learn it was a Brioni suit worth $15,000. His shoes were Gucci loafers polished to a mirror shine. On his wrist was a rose gold watch that caught the light every time he moved, and I would later learn that was a Patek Philippe worth north of $60,000. He had that carefully styled messy hair that probably cost more to achieve than most people spend on groceries in a month. Next to him on the bench was a Louis Vuitton briefcase, pristine and untouched. He was checking his phone constantly, scrolling with his thumb, not even pretending to pay attention to the proceedings happening around him. His body language screamed entitlement and boredom, like being here was beneath him, like this was all just a ridiculous inconvenience in his otherwise perfect life. Sitting several rows behind him, I noticed a woman in a wrinkled EMT uniform. She had a coffee stain on her sleeve and dark circles under her eyes that spoke of too many double shifts and not enough sleep. Her hair was pulled back in a simple, practical ponytail. She sat very still, her hands folded in her lap, and she was watching the proceedings with quiet attention. The contrast between these two people was so stark it was almost comical, except there was nothing funny about it. "Case number 74321, Christina called out at exactly 10:47 in the morning. City of Providence versus Marcus Whitmore III. Violation of Municipal Code, Section 12-14-9, unauthorized parking in designated emergency zone." The young man in the expensive suit stood up, and so did his lawyer, a man in his 50s, wearing an expensive corporate uniform and carrying a leather folder that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent. They approached the defendant's table. The woman in the EMT uniform stood up too and moved to the front row of the gallery, but she did not come forward yet. Mr. Whitmore, I said, looking at the file and then at him, you are charged with parking your vehicle in the ambulance bay emergency zone at Rhode Island Hospital on October 3rd of this year, from approximately 5:15 in the evening until 9:47 at night. That is 4 hours and 32 minutes. Is that correct? The lawyer spoke first. Your Honor, my client acknowledges that his vehicle was parked in that location, but there are extenuating circumstances that we would like to... I am asking your client, I said, keeping my voice even but firm. Mr. Whitmore, did you park your vehicle, which I see here is listed as a bright orange Lamborghini Huracan, in the clearly marked emergency zone ambulance bay at Rhode Island Hospital for over 4 hours? Marcus Whitmore looked at me with an expression that I have seen too many times on too many privileged faces. It was a look that said this was all absurd, that he had better places to be, that surely we could all just move this along. I did park there, yes, he said. His voice had that particular quality of someone who has never had to worry about consequences. But I really do not think this requires a court appearance. Send me the ticket and I will pay it, and we can all move on with our lives. I felt my jaw tighten slightly, but I kept my composure. The reason you are here, Mr. Whitmore, is because this particular violation had consequences. Ms. Rita Alvarez, would you please come forward? The woman in the EMT uniform stood and walked to the witness area. Up close, I could see even more clearly how exhausted she was. But there was something else in her face, too. Dignity, strength. The kind of strength that comes from holding yourself together when everything wants to fall apart. Ms. Alvarez, can you tell me what happened on the evening of October 3rd? She took a breath and spoke in a clear, professional voice. Your Honor, I have been an EMT with Rhode Island Hospital for 23 years. On October 3rd, I was working the evening shift from 3 p.m. to 11 p.m. At approximately 8:32 that evening, we received an emergency call about a 78-year-old man experiencing cardiac arrest at a residence about 4 minutes from the hospital. My partner and I responded immediately with the patient. His condition was critical. He needed to get into the emergency department within minutes for any chance of survival. She paused, and I could see her composure wavering slightly. When we arrived at the hospital, the ambulance bay entrance was completely blocked by a bright orange sports car parked directly in the designated ambulance zone. We could not access the bay. We had to drive around to the secondary entrance, which added 3 minutes and 40 seconds to our response time. By the time we got the patient to the trauma team, his heart had stopped. They were able to revive him, but those extra minutes mattered. They always matter. I felt my throat tighten. I have heard thousands of stories from this bench, but something about the quiet, factual way she was delivering this information, without drama or exaggeration, it cut through every defense you build up as a judge. And did you attempt to locate the owner of the vehicle blocking the bay? Yes, Your Honor. Hospital security paged the owner of the vehicle repeatedly over the PA system starting at 5:30 p.m. They paged him at least 8 times over the course of those 4 hours. They also placed notices on the vehicle windshield. The defendant did not respond or move the vehicle until 9:47 p.m., over 4 hours later. What were you doing during those 4 hours, Mr. Whitmore? I asked, turning my attention to him. He shrugged. I was visiting a friend on the 4th floor. I did not hear any pages. Hospitals are loud. His lawyer jumped in quickly. Your Honor, my client simply was not aware of the situation. There was no malicious intent here. He made an honest mistake, and he is willing to pay the fine and any associated costs. I looked at Rita Alvarez. Ms. Alvarez, is there anything else you would like to add? She hesitated, and I could see her deciding whether to say something. Then she spoke quietly. Your Honor, I submitted everything in writing in my formal complaint. I do not want to take up the court's time. But I will say that when I finally located Mr. Whitmore at 9:30 that evening and asked him to move his vehicle, he looked at me like I was an insect. He told me to relax and that he would move it when he was ready. He did not seem to understand or care that lives were at stake. I sat back in my chair and let that information settle over the courtroom. I could feel the atmosphere shifting, people in the gallery leaning forward slightly, paying closer attention. This was not just a parking ticket anymore. This was something deeper. Now here is the pause moment. Let me stop right here for just a second, because I need to ask you something. Have you ever dealt with someone who thought they were above the rules? Someone who thought their money or their connections meant they did not have to follow the same laws as everyone else? Leave me a comment, because I actually read them. And if you are feeling this story, if it is touching you the way it touched me, hit that like button for me. I need you to stick with me, because this gets so much more intense than you can imagine right now. I looked at Marcus Whitmore, and I could see he was barely paying attention. He was picking at something on his sleeve, examining his cufflinks like they were the most interesting thing in the world. Mr. Whitmore, do you understand the seriousness of what Ms. Alvarez just described? Your Honor, the lawyer interjected before his client could answer, my client understands, and as I mentioned, he is prepared to resolve this matter financially. His family has actually made substantial charitable donations to Rhode Island Hospital in the past, and they would be willing to make another donation of, say, $10,000 to the Emergency Services Fund to demonstrate good faith and— Stop, I said, and my voice came out harder than I intended. The word echoed in the quiet courtroom. Stop right there. Your client broke the law, and your defense is that his family can write a check? Do you understand how that sounds? Do you understand what you are actually saying to me right now? The lawyer looked uncomfortable, shifting his weight from one foot to the other. Your Honor, I am simply trying to propose a resolution that allows your client to buy his way out of consequences, I finished. I understand perfectly what you are proposing, Counselor, and I am telling you right now that is not how justice works in my courtroom. I sat back in my chair and thought about my father's words. I thought about power and character and the choices we make when nobody is forcing our hand. I have been in situations like this before, where money and influence try to bend justice, and it never sits right with me. It goes against everything I believe, everything my father taught me, everything this robe is supposed to represent. But I needed more information before I decided how to proceed. Christina, is there anything else in the file I should know about? She stood and walked to the bench, handing me several additional pages. Judge, when we ran Mr. Whitmore's driving record, several items came up. 6 unpaid parking violations in the past 4 months. 3 of those were in emergency zones or fire lanes. One was at a fire station entrance on Benefit Street. Another was blocking a wheelchair accessibility ramp at a public school on the east side. I looked at Marcus Whitmore, and I felt something hot surge through my chest. You have 6 unpaid parking tickets? He waved his hand dismissively, like we were discussing something trivial. I keep meaning to deal with those. I have been busy. Busy doing what, Mr. Whitmore? What is it that you do for work? There was a pause. His lawyer shifted uncomfortably. Marcus looked slightly annoyed at the question. My client is between opportunities at the moment, the lawyer said carefully. So you do not have a job. I am exploring various options in the financial sector and you are unemployed, I said flatly. So how do you support yourself? How do you afford a Lamborghini and a $15,000 suit and a $60,000 watch? My family provides support, he said, and there was a defensive edge creeping into his voice now. Your family money. I looked at him for a long moment, studying his face, trying to see if there was any awareness there, any understanding of how this looked, any recognition of why this might be a problem. I saw nothing, just annoyance and impatience. Mr. Whitmore, I want you to explain something to me. Why do you think the rules do not apply to you? Why do you think you can park in emergency zones multiple times, ignore hospital pages for 4 hours while people are dying, accumulate violations and just not pay them, and face no real consequences? He started to answer, but his lawyer put a hand on his arm and leaned in to whisper something urgent in his ear. Marcus pulled back slightly and said, Your Honor, my client does not need to answer that. Actually, I said, and I let my voice go very quiet and very firm, in my courtroom, when I ask a direct question about someone's attitude and understanding of the law, they do need to answer. Mr. Whitmore, I am waiting. He looked annoyed now, like I was the one being unreasonable, like I was wasting his valuable time. Look, everyone makes mistakes. I did not hurt anyone. This is being blown way out of proportion. You did not hurt anyone? I repeated slowly, making sure I had heard him correctly. Ms. Alvarez just testified that a 78-year-old cardiac patient nearly died because of the delay your illegally parked vehicle caused. But he did not die, Marcus said, and I heard Rita Alvarez make a small sound in her seat like she had been slapped. Before I could respond, Christina approached the bench again with an urgent expression on her face. Judge, there is one more item. It was just brought to our attention by the prosecutor's office this morning. She handed me a printed screenshot, and what I saw made my blood pressure tick up several notches. It was an Instagram post from Marcus Whitmore's account, posted on October 3rd at 9:16 p.m., time-stamped right there in the corner. The photo showed his bright orange Lamborghini parked in the ambulance bay, and you could clearly see the emergency zone markings and signage in the background. You could see the red-painted curb, the big white letters that said emergency vehicles only, the whole thing. The caption read, "Sometimes you just gotta park where you park. Hospital said I can't park here, but they don't know my uncle is Senator Whitmore, LOL. Perks of the last name. They can send me the ticket if they really care that much. Untouchable, Kyuk, sorry, not sorry." I read it twice to make sure I was understanding correctly. Then I read it a third time. He had posted this while he was still in the hospital, while his car was still blocking the emergency bay, while Rita Alvarez was probably desperately trying to locate him, while that 78-year-old man was fighting for his life. He had posted it with a laughing emoji and hashtags and a smirking reference to his uncle's political position as protection. "Mr. Whitmore," I said, and I heard my voice go very quiet and very cold. "Did you post this photograph on your Instagram account on the evening of October 3rd while your vehicle was still blocking the emergency zone?" His face went slightly pale. His lawyer leaned over and whispered something urgently in his ear, his hand gripping Marcus's arm. "Your Honor, I would advise my client not to answer questions about social media posts without proper context and—" "I am going to display this in the courtroom," I said to Christina. She nodded and projected the image onto the screen we use for evidence. The entire courtroom could now see Marcus Whitmore's bright orange Lamborghini blocking the ambulance bay, could see his caption bragging about his senator uncle, could see the mocking tone and the hashtags and the complete lack of awareness or concern. There was an audible gasp from the gallery. Someone said, "Oh my God," under their breath. I saw Rita Alvarez staring at the screen with an expression I will never forget. It was not anger exactly, it was something deeper. It was the look of someone realizing just how little they mattered to another human being. It was the look of someone confronting the reality that their 23 years of service, their exhaustion, their dedication, all of it was worth less than nothing to this young man who thought his last name made him untouchable. Now here is the part that went viral, but you have to see it to believe it, so stick with me. But first, drop a comment and tell me, what would you do in my position? What would justice look like to you? "Mr. Whitmore," I said, keeping my voice very even and controlled, "I need you to tell me something honestly. Have you ever worked a day in your life? Have you ever held a job where you earned your own income?" He glanced at his lawyer, who looked like he wanted to object but did not know exactly how. "Not in a traditional sense, no. So everything you have, your car, your clothes, your lifestyle, that all comes from your family?" "Yes." "And your uncle is State Senator Richard Whitmore?" "Yes." "And you believed, when you parked in that emergency zone, that your connection to him would protect you from consequences? You believed your last name put you above the law?" "I did not say that." "You posted it on Instagram," I said, pointing at the screen where his own words were displayed for everyone to see. "You literally posted it. You said your uncle is a senator, so they cannot do anything to you. You used the hashtag untouchable. What exactly am I misunderstanding here?" His jaw clenched. "I was joking." "Were you?" "Because it does not look like a joke to me. It looks like a statement of belief. It looks like you genuinely thought your family name placed you above the law, above basic human decency, above having to care whether someone lived or died because you could not be bothered to move your car. Christina approached the bench again. Judge, I am sorry to interrupt, but there is a representative from the Rhode Island FBI office here who says it is urgent. I frowned. This was highly unusual. Send them in. A moment later, a man in his 40s wearing a dark suit and carrying FBI credentials approached the bench. Your Honor, I apologize for the interruption. I am Special Agent Ramirez from the FBI Financial Crimes Division. I wanted to inform you that Mr. Whitmore is currently under federal investigation for insurance fraud involving staged accidents with luxury vehicles. We have been monitoring him for 6 months as part of a larger case involving his family's business associates. We would like to formally request that if he is convicted of any charges today, you ask him to surrender his passport, as he is considered a flight risk. The courtroom went absolutely silent. You could have heard a pin drop. Marcus Whitmore had gone from slightly pale to genuinely white. His lawyer looked like someone had just gut-punched him and stolen his briefcase at the same time. Mr. Whitmore is under federal investigation, I repeated, wanting to make sure I had heard correctly. Yes, Your Honor. We have evidence of at least 4 staged collisions involving his Lamborghini and rental vehicles, with fraudulent insurance claims totaling approximately $375,000. We expect to file formal charges within the next 60 days. We have been waiting for the right moment to approach him, and this seemed appropriate. I looked at the defense lawyer. Did you know about this? He shook his head slowly, and I could see genuine shock on his face. No, Your Honor, this is the first I am hearing of it. My firm was retained just for this parking violation matter. The FBI agent nodded and stepped back. The atmosphere in the courtroom had completely shifted. This was no longer a simple parking violation case. This was a window into a pattern of behavior, a pattern of entitlement and criminality that ran much deeper than I had initially realized. This was a young man who believed the rules simply did not apply to him, not parking rules, not emergency zone rules, not even federal insurance fraud laws. Mr. Whitmore, I said slowly, choosing my words carefully, I am going to ask you a direct question, and I want you to think very carefully before you answer. Do you believe you did anything wrong on October 3rd? Not legally wrong, because we have already established the legal violation. I mean morally wrong. Do you believe your actions were wrong? He looked at his lawyer, who was frantically whispering advice while simultaneously looking like he wanted to be anywhere else in the world. Then Marcus looked back at me, and I saw him make a decision. Your Honor, on the advice of counsel and given the FBI matter that was just revealed, I am going to invoke my Fifth Amendment right not to answer that question as it may relate to ongoing federal matters. Of course you are, I said quietly. I looked at Rita Alvarez, still sitting in the front row, still dignified despite everything, and I made a decision of my own. Ms. Alvarez, can you tell me about your personal circumstances? You do not have to if you do not want to, but I think it is relevant to understanding the full picture here. She nodded slowly and stood up. Her voice was steady, but I could hear the emotion underneath it. Your Honor, I am 52 years old. I have worked as an EMT for 23 years. My husband died of pancreatic cancer 2 years ago. The medical bills from his treatment, even with insurance, nearly bankrupted us. I am still paying them off, and I will be for at least another 3 years. I have 3 children, 2 in high school and 1 in community college. I work 50 to 60 hours a week to support them. I also work part-time at a grocery store on weekends to make ends meet. Her voice cracked slightly. I love my job. I love helping people. I have delivered babies in the back of ambulances and held the hands of people taking their last breaths. I have pulled people from burning cars and talked suicide victims down from ledges. I do this because it matters, because every life matters, because serving other people is the most important thing I can do with my life. I saw tears in the eyes of several people in the gallery. I felt my own throat getting tight. I had to take a moment before I could speak, had to collect myself because what she had just said hit me somewhere deep. This is why I do this job. This is why I still show up every morning, for people like Rita Alvarez. Mr. Whitmore, I want you to look at Ms. Alvarez. Look at her. He turned slowly, reluctantly, and glanced in her direction without really looking, without really seeing. "No," I said firmly. "Really look at her. Look at what 23 years of service looks like. Look at what it looks like to work yourself to exhaustion caring for other people while paying off your dead husband's medical bills. Look at what dignity and strength look like." He looked, but I could see there was nothing behind his eyes. No recognition, no empathy, no understanding. Just a blank wall where human compassion should be. "You said earlier that this whole situation is being blown out of proportion," I continued. "You said you did not hurt anyone. But let me tell you what I see. I see a woman who has spent 23 years serving this community, who has probably saved hundreds of lives through her dedication and skill. I see a woman who lost her husband and is raising 3 children alone while working 80 hours a week just to survive. I see a woman who showed up to this courthouse today on her day off exhausted to stand up for what is right because she believes in accountability." I paused and turned my attention to Marcus. "And then I see you, 24 years old, never worked a day in your life, living off family money, driving a car worth more than most people make in 5 years, under federal investigation for fraud, with 6 unpaid parking violations, including 3 in emergency zones. I see someone who blocked an ambulance bay for 4 hours, who ignored 8 pages from hospital security, who told a dedicated EMT to relax when she begged you to move, who then posted a picture on Instagram bragging about it and saying, 'Your senator uncle makes you untouchable.'" The courtroom was absolutely silent. Everyone was leaning forward, completely focused. I could feel the weight of this moment. "So let me be very clear about something. You are right that you and Ms. Alvarez come from different backgrounds. You are right that you are not equal, but not in the way you think. You are not equal because she has spent her life serving others, while you have spent yours serving only yourself. You are not equal because she has character and integrity and compassion, while you have entitlement and arrogance and contempt for anyone you consider beneath you. You are not equal because she is worth 10 of you." The courtroom erupted. People started clapping. Someone in the back said "Amen" loudly. I had to bang the gavel 3 times to restore order, but I let it go on for a few seconds because sometimes the courtroom needs to speak too. Marcus Whitmore's face had gone red. His jaw was clenched so tight I thought his teeth might crack. His lawyer had his head down, scribbling notes frantically, probably trying to figure out if there was any possible appeal angle here. If you are still watching, you are part of something special. If you believe that money should not place anyone above the law, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. Like this video and let us show the algorithm that justice matters. Share this with someone who needs to see it. "Let me tell you something I have learned in 42 years on this bench," I continued, and I let my voice carry the full weight of those decades. "Character is not about what you do when someone is watching or when there are consequences. Character is about what you do when you think no one is looking and nothing bad will happen to you. You parked in that emergency zone because you thought your last name would protect you. You ignored pages for 4 hours because you did not care about anyone but yourself. You posted a picture bragging about it because you thought it was funny. And you have accumulated 6 violations because you genuinely believe rules are for other people. That is not a mistake, Mr. Whitmore. That is character. That is who you are." I looked at his lawyer. "Your defense has been that your client can make charitable donations to resolve this, that his family has money and influence. But that is exactly the problem. That is exactly what I am here to stand against. In this courtroom, everyone is equal under the law. A senator's nephew and an EMT working 2 jobs get treated the same. Money does not buy justice here. Connections do not buy preferential treatment here. And if you cannot understand that, then you should not be practicing law in my courtroom." The lawyer opened his mouth to respond, then closed it again. He looked defeated. "I am ready to deliver my ruling," I said. "Marcus Whitmore III, you are found guilty of unauthorized parking in a designated emergency zone, a violation of Municipal Code, Section 12-14-9. You are also found guilty of 6 counts of failure to pay issued citations. Here's your sentence." I paused and looked at the young man who had walked in here thinking his uncle's name would save him, thinking his money made him untouchable, thinking the rules were for everyone except him. You will pay a fine of $500 for the parking violation and $50 for each unpaid citation, total of $800, due within 30 days. You will complete 200 hours of community service, and those hours will be completed specifically at Rhode Island Hospital in the Emergency Services Department. You will mop floors, you will empty bedpans, you will assist orderlies with patient transport, you will help clean equipment, and you will do whatever tasks the department supervisor assigns you, and that supervisor will be someone from Ms. Alvarez's department, someone she personally recommends. I saw his mouth open to object, but I was not finished, not even close. Your driver's license is suspended for 6 months effective immediately. During that time, you will use public transportation like the thousands of other Rhode Islanders who cannot afford luxury sports cars. You will ride the bus, you will take the train, you will walk. You will experience what it is like to depend on systems that serve everyone, not just the privileged few. His lawyer was scribbling notes frantically. Marcus looked genuinely panicked now. I still was not done. You will write a handwritten letter of apology to Ms. Alvarez, minimum 1 full page, single-spaced, explaining specifically what you did wrong, why it was wrong, how it affected her and others, and what you have learned. You will read that letter aloud to Ms. Alvarez and the emergency services staff at Rhode Island Hospital before you begin your community service hours. And Ms. Alvarez, if that letter is not sincere, if it is not genuine, you let me know and he will write another one. Rita Alvarez nodded, and I saw the first hint of satisfaction in her expression. You will also create an Instagram post, since that seems to be your preferred method of communication, explaining exactly what happened, admitting what you did wrong, apologizing publicly, and encouraging your followers not to make the same mistakes. That post must remain on your account for a minimum of 1 year. If you delete it early, you will spend 30 days in jail for contempt of court. His face was pale now. His hands were shaking slightly. Good. He needed to understand consequences. You will make a donation of $50,000 to the Rhode Island Hospital Emergency Services Fund within 30 days, and you will personally match that with an additional $50,000 in monthly payments of $4,167 over the next 12 months. If you miss even one payment, your community service hours automatically double to 400 hours. I brought the gavel down with a sharp crack that echoed through the courtroom like a gunshot. Furthermore, at the request of the FBI and given your status as both a flight risk and a subject of ongoing federal investigation, I am ordering you to surrender your passport to this court immediately. You will not leave the state of Rhode Island without explicit written permission from both this court and the FBI. And Mr. Whitmore, let me be very clear about something. If you miss 1 hour of community service, if you show up late, if you demonstrate the same arrogant attitude you have shown today, I will hold you in contempt and you will spend 30 days in jail. Do you understand me? He nodded, looking shell-shocked. Yes, Your Honor, he managed to say, his voice barely above a whisper. Good. Now I want to tell you something, and I want you to really hear me. You have been given a gift today. You do not realize it yet, but you have. You have been given a chance to actually learn something, to actually understand what service and sacrifice and character mean. Most people in your position never get that chance. They just keep failing upward, protected by money and connections, never growing, never becoming better human beings, never contributing anything meaningful to the world. I am giving you an opportunity to become a better person. I suggest you take it, because this is your last chance. The federal charges are coming, and nothing your uncle's name or your family's money can do will stop that. This is your wake-up call. Use it wisely. At that exact moment, the courtroom doors opened with a bang that made everyone jump. 2 people walked in. One was Special Agent Ramirez, returning with paperwork. The other was a woman in her early 60s wearing an expensive pantsuit, carrying a designer handbag, and radiating an air of authority that filled the entire room. I recognized her immediately from newspaper photos. Catherine Whitmore, Marcus's mother and sister-in-law to the senator. She was on the board of 3 major corporations and 2 charitable foundations. She was not someone you ignored. She walked directly to where her son was standing, her heels clicking sharply on the floor, and her face was not sympathetic. It was not protective. It was absolutely furious. "You parked in an emergency zone for 4 hours," she said, her voice low but cutting through the silence like a knife. "And you posted about it on Instagram? Are you actually stupid?" Marcus started to respond, but she cut him off with a gesture. "Do not talk. I cannot even look at you right now. Your uncle tried to call this courthouse this morning to make this go away, to use his influence, to embarrass this family even further. Do you understand what you have done? You have embarrassed this family in ways I cannot even begin to calculate. And now there is a federal investigation, insurance fraud. What is wrong with you?" She turned to me, and I saw genuine contrition in her expression. "Your Honor, I want to be absolutely clear that this family does not condone this behavior. My son will comply with every single aspect of your sentence, every hour, every dollar, every word. If he does not, you call me directly, and I will make sure he does. I'm ashamed of him. His grandfather built this family's reputation through hard work and genuine service to this state, through integrity and responsibility, and he has spent his entire life tearing it down, coasting on a name he did not earn, taking advantage of privilege he does not deserve." Then she turned back to Marcus, and her voice went even colder. "You are 24 years old, and you have never worked a day in your life. That ends now, today. After you complete your sentence here, you will get a job. A real job where you earn a paycheck through your own work. And if you do not, I am cutting you off completely. No more allowance, no more credit cards, no more rent payments. You will learn what it means to support yourself, or you will learn what it means to be homeless. Do you understand me?" I watched Marcus Whitmore transform before my eyes. The smugness was gone. The arrogance was gone. The entitled swagger that had carried him into this courtroom had evaporated completely. He looked small and pale and genuinely frightened. His own mother had abandoned him right there in open court. His family name, the thing he thought would protect him, the thing he had bragged about on Instagram, had just become the thing condemning him. Special Agent Ramirez approached the bench. "Your Honor, I have the passport surrender forms here. I also need to officially inform Mr. Whitmore that he should retain criminal defense counsel, as the federal grand jury is expected to return indictments within 45 days. Mr. Whitmore approached the bench, I said. He walked forward slowly, his expensive shoes clicking on the floor, but the sound was different now, not confident, defeated. "I want you to look at Ms. Alvarez one more time." He turned and looked at Rita Alvarez, who was sitting quietly, her hands still folded in her lap, her expression calm and dignified. "Ms. Alvarez did not have to show up today," I said quietly. "She did not have to take time off from work that she probably could not afford to miss. She did not have to stand here and relive what happened, did not have to subject herself to being looked at the way you looked at her, like she did not matter, like her life's work meant nothing. But she did show up, because she believes in accountability, because she believes in the system, because she has integrity. I want you to think about what real courage looks like. It does not look like posting bragging pictures on Instagram from your position of privilege. It does not look like invoking your family name to escape consequences. Real courage looks like her. Remember that during every single hour of your community service." I dismissed the court. Marcus Whitmore was escorted to a side table to fill out passport surrender forms and payment arrangements. His mother stood nearby, her arms crossed, watching him with an expression of disgust and disappointment that probably hurt worse than anything I could have said. The gallery slowly emptied. Rita Alvarez stood to leave, and I called out to her, "Ms. Alvarez, can you wait just a moment?" She approached the bench, and I came down from the judge's chair to speak with her directly, something I do not do often. But this felt important. Up close, I could see just how exhausted she was, but there was something else too, relief maybe, or vindication, or maybe just the satisfaction of being seen, of being heard, of mattering. "I want to thank you for coming today," I said. "I know it was not easy." "Thank you, Your Honor," she said quietly. "I did not know if it would matter. I did not know if anyone would care. People like him, they usually just get away with it." "Not in my courtroom," I said firmly. "And I hope you know that what I said in there, I meant every single word. Your service, your dedication, your character, those things have real value. They have more value than any amount of money or any family name. You are the kind of person who makes this community work, who makes it worth protecting." She nodded, and I saw tears forming in her eyes. "I have not felt seen in a long time," she said. "Not really seen. Thank you for seeing me." "You did not need me," I said. "You had already won the moment you decided to show up and stand up for what was right. I just made it official." She smiled then, a real, genuine smile that made her whole tired face soften and brighten, and then she left. I went back to my chambers and I sat in my chair and I thought about the morning. I thought about Marcus Whitmore walking in with his expensive suit and his arrogant smirk and his absolute certainty that his family name would save him. I thought about Rita Alvarez in her coffee-stained uniform with exhaustion carved into every line of her face. I thought about my father's words about power and mercy and character. I thought about what justice really means when you strip away all the procedure and precedent and legal theory and get down to the human heart of it. Justice means seeing people. Justice means treating everyone with equal dignity. Justice means understanding that the law exists to serve humanity, not the other way around. Christina knocked on the door. "You okay, Judge?" "I am okay," I said. That one took something out of me, though. "You did good," she said, and coming from her after 23 years of working together, that meant something. "That kid needed to hear exactly what you said, and that EMT, she needed to hear it too. You gave them both something important today." That evening I went home and I told Joyce about the case over dinner at our kitchen table, the same table we have had for 30 years. She has heard thousands of my stories over 48 years of marriage, but she always listens like each one is the first, like each one matters. "You gave him mercy," she said when I finished. "You could have thrown the book at him, could have given him jail time right there, but you gave him a chance to learn instead." "I do not know if he will take it," I said. "Maybe not," she agreed, squeezing my hand. "But you planted the seed. You showed him what character looks like. You gave him an example. That is all you can do. The rest is up to him." 3 weeks later, I received a letter at the courthouse. The return address was from Rita Alvarez. I opened it carefully like it was something precious, and I read her handwritten words. "Your Honor, I wanted to write and thank you for what happened in your courtroom. I have been struggling for 2 years now since my husband died. I have been working myself to exhaustion, barely keeping my head above water financially, feeling invisible and unimportant, just another worker bee that nobody notices or values. What you said to Mr. Whitmore, what you said about my service and my worth, about being equal under the law, about character mattering more than money, it gave me something back that I did not even realize I had lost. You gave me back my dignity. You gave me back my faith in the system. You gave me back my sense that what I do matters, that my life means something. I have started volunteering with a grief support group at the hospital for other people who have lost spouses. I figured if I could help someone else the way you helped me, even a little bit, then maybe all this pain has some purpose. Thank you for seeing me. Thank you for standing up for people like me. You will never know how much it meant." I sat at my desk with that letter in my hands and I cried. I am 82 years old. I have been on this bench for 42 years, and I still cry sometimes. This job will break your heart if you let it, but it will also fill it back up in ways you cannot predict. I kept that letter in my desk drawer with the few other letters I have received over the years from people who felt seen, who felt heard, who felt like justice actually meant something. Those letters matter more to me than any award or recognition I have ever received from the Rhode Island Bar Association or anyone else. 6 months later, I was at the grocery store on a Saturday afternoon with Joyce. We were in the produce section, debating whether the tomatoes looked any good, when I heard someone call my name. I turned and saw Rita Alvarez walking toward me. She looked different. She looked lighter somehow, like some weight had been lifted off her shoulders. She was smiling. "Your Honor, I am sorry to bother you on your day off," she said. "You're not bothering me at all," I said. "How are you doing?" "I'm doing better," she said. "Some days are still very hard, but I'm finding my way. I wanted you to know that Mr. Whitmore completed his community service hours last month." "How did he do?" She considered the question carefully. He was resistant at first, showed up late a few times, complained about the work, acted like it was beneath him, but about halfway through something changed. He actually started paying attention, started asking questions about our work, started treating people with respect. On his last day, he apologized to me privately, without any prompting. He said he had never understood what it meant to serve other people until he was forced to do it. He said he was ashamed of how he treated me. I do not know if he is a changed person, but he is at least a changed version of who he was. That is all we can hope for, I said. There is something else, she said, and her smile widened. I started a program at the hospital, a support network for first responders who are dealing with grief and trauma. We meet twice a month. It started with just 3 of us, and now we have almost 20 regular members. People are sharing their stories, helping each other heal. I figured if I could help someone else the way you helped me, if I could pass that forward, then maybe that is my purpose now. I felt that tightness in my chest again, that feeling of something important and meaningful happening. That is remarkable, Rita. That is how change really happens. One person helping another person, those people helping others, the ripples spreading out. She nodded. You taught me that. You showed me that one person in a position of power who actually cares, who actually sees people as human beings instead of case numbers, can make a real difference. I wanted to do the same thing in my own way. We talked for a few more minutes, exchanged updates about our families, and then she went on her way. I stood there in the produce section holding a bag of tomatoes, and I thought about how one moment in a courtroom had rippled outward in ways I could never have predicted. Marcus Whitmore learned something about service and humility and consequences. Rita Alvarez found healing and purpose and started helping others. 21st responders now had a support system they did not have before, and all of it started because one person decided to show up and stand up for what was right, and because I decided to actually see her, to actually hear her, to treat her with the dignity and respect she deserved. That is what this job is really about. Not the procedure, not the legal precedent, not the case law or the statutes or any of that. It is about seeing people. It is about understanding that behind every case file is a human being with a story that matters. It is about using whatever power you have been given to lift people up instead of pushing them down. I learned that from my father, the Italian immigrant construction worker with $8 in his pocket and hands gnarled from decades of hard work. He taught me that character gets tested when you have power. He taught me that mercy is not weakness. He taught me that how we treat each other, especially how we treat those with less power than us, that is what defines us. I am 82 years old now. I do not know how many more years I have on this bench. My knees hurt when I climb the stairs, my eyes get tired by late afternoon, and I forget names sometimes in ways that frustrate me. But I still show up every morning at 8:15. I still drink my coffee strong and black. I still think about my father's words every single day. And I still believe, despite everything I have seen and all the cynicism that could be justified after 42 years of watching human behavior at its best and worst, I still believe that justice matters, that people can change, that mercy is not weakness, and that how we treat each other is the only thing that really matters when you strip away all the noise. Choose carefully, choose wisely, choose with your heart and your head both, because those choices ripple out in ways you will never see. Rita Alvarez started a support group that helped 20 people, and those 20 people will help others, and those others will help more, and on like ripples spreading across a pond. That is how change really happens. Not through big dramatic gestures or grand pronouncements, but through small acts of compassion and dignity and respect that multiply and spread. If this story meant something to you, if you believe in equal justice tempered with mercy like I do me a favor. Hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. Turn on that bell icon. Share this video with someone who needs to hear this message today. And check out the next video on your screen because I have got another incredible story for you about a homeless veteran and a police officer that will blow your mind. Thank you for listening. Thank you for caring. Thank you for believing that one person can make a difference because you can. We all can. I am Frank Caprio. I have been on this bench for 42 years because I believe something simple. I believe we are all equal before the law. I believe justice without mercy is not really justice at all. I believe every person has a story and that story deserves to be heard. And I believe that respect costs nothing, but it is worth everything. God bless you. Take care of each other. Show kindness whenever you can. And remember what my father taught me all those years ago when I was just a boy watching him come home with those gnarled hands and that tired smile. He said, when you have power, use it wisely, use it with mercy, use it to serve others, not yourself. That is what makes you a person worth respecting. That is what makes your life matter. I will see you tomorrow with another story. Thank you for being here.